Check me out.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah.
Hope you're having an awesome day. Welcome to the Mile High Mentors podcast. Very excited to have you here. As always, really appreciate it. Sincerely, we really love hearing from you guys that have listened to the show and reach out to us on social media. It just means it means the world to us. I mean, the feedback that you guys give us really allows us to continue making this a great platform, which is what we want to continue to do because we are doing this for you. Ultimately, we want to bring you guys top insights, information, resources, tips, tricks, just stories from the local resources that we have here in the incredible state of Colorado. So yeah, give us a shout. Do not forget to subscribe wherever you're listening. Please leave a review. That helps us to continue getting discovered. So, by the way, if you're listening to this and you're actually interested in potentially advertising on our podcast, we are opening this slot, which I am blabbing away in, for ideally a local company. We'd love to work and help with some sort of local organization to promote your product or service to our local audience. It'd be a really great opportunity to get yourself in front of the right people and allows us the resources that we need to continue to grow and keep sharing the information with more people. And so if you're interested in doing that, send us an email at milehighmentors@gmail.com. You can reach out to us, DM us on social media, wherever you're hanging out. And we would absolutely love to hear from you if that's something that you're interested in. So today's guest, guys, is John White, who I had a really good conversation with on a Saturday, beautiful Saturday up in Fort Collins. John White is a globally recognized columnist. I think I said that right. He's written for publications such as Inc., Influencive, Huffington Post, and he's got quite the background, which you would never guess. John is actually a former teacher, and I bet you will not guess what he actually taught before he became a well-known writer and entrepreneur that's amassed close to over 200,000 followers on his social media platform. So I bet you'll never guess what he was teaching. You're just going to have to listen to the podcast to find out. And John's a very great guy. We talked for quite a while. He has a lot of really interesting insights to share with you guys in the world of growing an audience and writing content and becoming an influencer from literally zero, from scratch. So I'll stop blabbing without further ado. Please welcome John White to the Mile High Mentors podcast. So I appreciate having you down.
Yeah, great.
It's awesome. Man. Tell me, so you're from Fort Collins originally? You're from Colorado?
So, from Atlanta, Georgia originally, and moved to Fort Collins in 1987 in the 5th grade. And my dad got transferred out west, and literally he could pick any town or city, and we on this massive road trip out west. And came across Fort Collins, and my parents fell in love with it, and we've been out here, at least in Colorado, ever since I moved out, down to Denver, and then actually came back this way. So
just road tripping, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And you went to Poudre High School?
I went to Poudre High School here in Fort Collins. Yep.
Did you go to college out here as well?
I did. I went to Colorado State, and then I transferred halfway over to UNC in Greeley. Mm-hmm. To pursue international business.
How's Greeley?
It's kind of a long story. So I was on the tennis team here at Colorado State, and the team got cut after my sophomore year. And so I originally transferred over to UNC to play tennis. and to pursue international business. Honestly, CSU didn't have an international business program at the time, and ended up pursuing the academic side, but called it quits on my college tennis career. I actually started coaching tennis and making money from it, and so it was a great gig for a college kid, and but the plan was to keep playing. That never happened, but ended up getting my international degree. So it was good. It was a good move.
Yeah. You still play tennis regularly?
I do.
Nice.
Yeah, my wife and I play on a competitive men's team.
Yeah. How'd you get into tennis? It's such a niche sport. It's like you got to have somebody who influenced you into tennis at some point, right?
Yeah, it's actually pretty random. We ended up having a tennis court on our street in Atlanta, before I moved to Colorado, and the neighborhood kids, we just grab rackets and go and play tennis. And I don't even think we knew the rules or anything.
You got to be quick. you got to have quick feet to do that.
Yeah, you got to hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
And so I didn't. My parents weren't tennis players, so I kind of took a different path to tennis. But it was just one of those things where you gravitate to what you're good at. Mm-hmm. And I was just I could beat all the kids in the neighborhood at tennis and beat them pretty handily. And so I was like, well, okay, maybe I should play some kids that aren't in my neighborhood. And that's how it started. And I just, just kind of fell in love with the sport. And
yeah.
It's been something I've done ever since.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So, and then you did or you didn't finish school? You did.
I didn't finish
college
tennis. I played 2 years at college tennis.
Yeah.
And
got it.
UNC. The intention was to keep playing over there. Mm-hmm. Probably a couple factors that caused me to call it quits. One is I started making money teaching lessons, and that was it was a good paying job for a college kid. And there was a little bit of the party scene too, kind of, so making money playing, teaching tennis. And
what year was this?
This was about 97, 98.
Or Greeley in 97,
yeah,
98?
That's when I transferred, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So,
I could see it. I could see you getting down.
Yeah.
To some Greeley parties.
Yeah. And I had friends at CU too, so I'd drive to Boulder and then come back to Colorado State. Up here before Collins, and so. But Greeley was a good change for me because it was a smaller school, and so the class sizes were smaller. So from an academic standpoint, it really was probably a good move. Mm-hmm.
Were you always into social media or marketing, or what was that your intention when you went to school originally?
Well, it didn't exist back when I was in school.
Well, marketing existed.
Yeah, marketing existed. Yeah, exactly. But so I was international business.
Oh, that's right.
Spanish. And so I learned Spanish in high school. Mm-hmm. And,
and you wanted to impress the Spanish women, so you stuck with it.
Right. Going back to the parties thing.
Exactly.
No, there is some truth to that. So I was an exchange student in Spain in high school, and became fluent in Spanish. And I wanted to utilize that as, other than just being able to impress the Spanish women in the bar that an American guy could order a drink fluently, there had to be something, more to that. And so that's kind of why I pursued international business in college.
Yeah. I mean, Greeley in the late 90s probably was like Little Mexico in some ways.
It really was, yeah. You could go into some of the taquerias over there and order in Spanish. And
nice.
So that was an added.
So
and the food was really good.
Just taking Spanish in high school was of interest enough to get you to do international business.
So there's backstory behind that too. My parents. So I was fortunate that my parents. We hosted an exchange student in when I was in, I think, 8th grade was the first time. Mm-hmm. We really liked it. They had an opportunity to get involved with the organization, and so they did. They started working together. My parents being regional directors in this cultural exchange organization. And so we kept hosting exchange students, and then I got to my sophomore year of high school, and they were like, "Okay, it's time for you to travel abroad." And so they sent me to Spain. And at the time,
in Spain?
In northern Spain, there's a city called Santander on the northern coast. It was amazing.
Spain is gorgeous. I lived there for just a couple months when I was in college, but I was more in touristy Barcelona side, the Catalan Circle and everything. But if I go back, I'm going more towards the up northern coast and down Sevilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's more cultural there, right? And the Barcelona area is a little more touristy and a little more American driven and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, with any big city.
Yeah. How long were you there for?
As a matter of fact, so I was the main city was Santander, but I was 20 minutes outside of Santander in a little village of like 200 to 500 people.
Wow.
And so like I can't prove it, but
and you didn't stick out like a sore thumb because they just look like white European people, like people who haven't been to Spain.
I did, like
really?
my Jordans, rocking my Jordans.
Well, maybe that, yeah.
And pretty Americanized. Yeah. And honestly, I can't prove it, but I was told that I was the first American to ever like spend any time in this little village. So I did kind of stick out. I was like,
how the hell did you end up there, like in that specific location?
My family wanted an exchange student. And they found out about the organization.
And keep telling that story. I'm just double checking this.
And they found out about the organization and somehow found my profile and selected me as their exchange student. And it was that simple. And before I knew it, I was on a plane saying goodbye to my friends and spending the summer in Spain.
For how long? This is how long?
First time I was there for 6 weeks, and then the next time I was there for about 4 months.
Wow, that's awesome. And the food, food is amazing.
It is.
Everything has to be grass fed and really high quality raised. Like they have different food regulations of raising animals there than here in the U.S. So the food is a little higher quality. The wine is amazing. Are you a wine guy?
Oh yeah, especially in Spain. You have to be. I mean, it's
Are you a wine guy now?
Not as much here. I mean, I do drink wine, but I do like to drink Spanish wine. When I do drink wine. So, and to your point about the quality of the food. So being out in the country. We had a chicken coop below the house, and so my host mother used to make the most amazing Spanish tortilla ever with those fresh eggs from the chicken coop. And I actually brought my wife there years later, which was a really, really cool because it was such a special time in my life, and you can tell people about it and they kind of get the idea, but like I was able to bring her there and back to my host family's house, and she had my host mother's Spanish tortilla that I used to rave about. She saw the chicken coop where the fresh eggs came from, and the tennis court where we played tennis, and so that was really cool.
And that's what they eat for dinner too. Is eggs is mostly like a dinner or like a lunch dish rather than breakfast.
Well, with Spanish tortilla, it literally can be eaten breakfast.
Anytime, yeah. Or you go into any cafe or any restaurant in Spain, and they have up on the counter the Spanish tortilla.
Yes.
It's like, I love
made fresh Spanish. Every day.
Yeah. You got to get the potatoes crispy enough though.
Yeah.
You got to get them crispy. I don't like them when they're soft. I cook them really hot and really high, but that's one of my favorite dishes. I'll still make that regularly for myself.
Yeah, my wife does too.
Yeah.
I used to make Spanish tortilla.
Yeah, got to make sure you oil the pan enough or you're not going to get that shit to flip over on the other side.
Right. Yeah, there is definitely an art to making it, and
yeah. What's a dish I'm thinking about? Not tortilla de patatas. No. It's like the national dish of Spain.
Paella.
What am I? Paella. Yeah. Is paella big on the north coast as much as it is like down on the south coast, or is that more like a non-traditional?
I think it's big everywhere in Spain, and there's different regional recipes but everywhere I've been in Spain, there's always been paella.
Have you made paella?
My wife does. Yeah, my wife does. Yeah, and it's
awesome.
Amazing.
So good.
Yeah,
gotta get it right.
She inherited all those recipes on that trip, so they got passed down to her, which was a huge bonus.
Yeah. What does she do?
My wife. Yeah, she's an audiologist.
Oh, okay.
So she works for Alpine Ear, Nose, and Throat here in Fort Collins. So it's
called an audiologist.
Audiologist. Yeah.
Okay.
So she
I was
tests,
like, she podcasts too?
She could test the audio. So she does test hearing and balance disorders and prescribes hearing aids and works with doctors, ear, nose, and throat specialists clinic here. They have 2 clinics in Fort Collins and 1 in Loveland.
Nice. That's awesome. So you spent some time in Spain. Did you travel around Europe a lot when you're out there as well, or you just kind of stayed regionally to Spain?
I stayed in Spain, yeah, believe it or not.
Huh.
I traveled around Spain. Went to the San Fermines, which is, we call it the Running of the Bulls, better known as the Running of the Bulls.
Yeah,
and that was a amazing festival.
Which they're starting to ban now, I think, aren't they?
I hadn't heard that, but that would be news to me. But anyway, I traveled around Spain a lot, but it was really kind of a homestay trip that I did, where meaning that I lived with a family and I just kind of did what they did,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So traveled around, and at what year? When did you come back here? You came straight back to Colorado after that?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. And were your parents entrepreneurs? Were they also business minded like you are?
So my dad was in business his whole life. He did have his own business in Atlanta, but he was more business oriented. And my mom was in education. She was a teacher, elementary school, middle school teacher, and they got into business together when the Cultural Exchange Organization hired them to be the regional directors for like an 8-state region that they managed, and they had local people in the towns and cities in that region that placed the exchange students and monitored them, and so they oversaw that entire region. So they were in business together, which is kind of a interesting dynamic when you're married. But they made it work, and they did that for a long time. I know a lot of
superpower couples that work together and kick ass, and some that eat each other alive. So it just depends on who it is, I guess.
Yeah, depends on the dynamic, right?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So, what was your early? And by the way, what's really interesting is a lot of entrepreneurs or writers, or they've written books or do speaking or consulting and stuff. A lot of them that I've talked, even a few that I've brought on in this podcast, more than a few, a handful, their parents were educators. Their mom was an educator, I've found. It's just a weird trend that I started to pick up on.
Yeah, and so to that point, my first career, so I'm on my 3rd career now.
Yeah.
My first career was a Spanish teacher.
Okay.
An elementary Spanish teacher.
You're totally fluent still. Speak really good Spanish.
It's not as fluent because I don't use it as often, but...
Can you speak Catalan?
No Catalan.
I could speak a little, poquito español, pero in Catalan, they just look at you like you're silly.
Oh, really?
You're goofy. Yeah, try, because when I was there in Barcelona, I know it's Barcelona, guys, but I hate saying it like that because you sound like a silly person, but they're just their own culture, their own world.
Yeah.
And you try and speak Spanish to them, and they almost kind of scoff at you or look down at you, or it's very interesting.
Yeah, it is a different culture over there for sure.
Yeah. And so where were you Spanish teacher at?
Spring Creek Elementary.
Okay.
In Fort Collins.
Okay.
And did that for 3.5 years, and was also the tennis coach at Poudre High School at the time, the head boys tennis coach there. So that was career number 1. And loved it. Loved being in education. And then I transitioned into the corporate world, the telecommunications world, the AT&Ts and the Verizon Wirelesses of the world, and had a good run there for a long time.
Was this in the early 2000s or so, or mid 2000s?
Yeah, early 2000s to up until 2014.
Yeah, telecom was a huge boom out in Colorado here at that point in time. A lot of people built their first careers in and around telecom. CenturyLink, Level 3, or not CenturyLink at the time, but Level 3 and Time Warner Telecom and all these other guys that, were all eaten up by each other. Huge industry.
huge industry, big companies, corporate-minded world, dog eat dog.
Yeah.
What have you done for me lately? A hero to zero.
So you loved it then?
Yeah. I had a good run there. And what I did love about it is I love that it taught me business acumen. I was in B2B, so I got to see the inside of so many different companies because you're working very closely with them on their communications and as their representative. So anywhere from mom and pop shops up to multinational organizations that need thousands of lines of communications between voice and data. Mm-hmm. So that side of it was very interesting. I also liked the chase. I was in sales, B2B,
biz dev,
hardcore close. Closing, deals, getting them to convert from one carrier to your carrier, and that was very challenging because it was highly competitive. And I did for many years enjoy that chase and the feeling of closing the deal, And so I learned sales inside and out from that experience. But there was huge downsides as well. The stress, the massive unrealistic quotas that they would heap on you, and just the corporate BS that you had to deal with playing the game. Playing along with the good old boys club. I can't tell you how many times I got passed over for promotions where, the hiring manager hired a buddy or whatever, and because I wasn't part of that club, I didn't get the job.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, it's different. I mean, the sales world is totally different now, right? Like, the high pressure, high tactical sales it's not an effective approach anymore, right? It's so much more of an educational, like holding that person's hand through the door rather than like shoving them through the door, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think people have been...
Now, before you get to that, how is going from teaching to sales, how did those correlate with each other? Like, how was your transition period between the two?
There was a learning curve for sure. My first sales role was as a bilingual sales rep. So I actually started that while I was still teaching, and it was back when DirecTV and Dish Network had first rolled out their bilingual packages. And so I did have, before I transitioned it into the wireless world, I did have that background of selling. So, but that was less corporate. Once I, got into that corporate selling environment, there's definitely a learning curve. They wanted you to follow a script. And, I remember like one of the first days at AT&T in my bilingual sales role, I got the secret shopper. It was like one of the first customers I ever helped, and I could do the talk track, but it wasn't natural yet.
Like a competitive company,
so they would hire secret shoppers to come into the store and pretend to be customers, and then they would be grading the sales rep on how they followed the company script. And
so you go from teaching and giving grades to now receiving grades.
Yeah, and I just remember, being, and I was more about, like, I'm going to get to know this person, and, and I kind of knew the script. I didn't realize at that point, like, that I was going to get dinged if I didn't follow it to a T. I'm like, okay, well, it's there if I need it, right? Well, next day my manager calls me into his office, and he's like, you got secret shopped. I'm like, what's that? And he's like, you got a secret shopper came in and you got an F. Like, you totally failed it, man. Like, what did you do in training? And I was like, I learned the talk track, but really, like, I have to follow that, like, to a T.
Verbatim.
Yeah, like, I can't be myself, and, and so that was like an eye-opening experience because he was getting heat from his manager that his new sales rep, came out and flunked the secret shop. And that was like eye-opening. That was like my first taste of really hard-driven corporate, follow the rules, follow the processes, there's really not much room for interpretation to this. We want you to start the conversation this way, and it needs to go through these steps, and it needs to end this way. And if you don't follow that, you're going to be shown the door essentially.
Right. I've had a similar experience actually. I was in a scripted sales role where I was doing door-to-door sales, and everything was scripted verbatim. I failed my first test too, and I went on to become one of their top producers in that organization. So it's interesting. I think it's changing a little bit. People are giving you more of the guidelines, allowing you to be more of yourself. But yeah, the corporate life. So you dislike that. You dislike being in the corporate life. How long did you carry that role on for?
Well, I started off in that retail role and progressed quickly out of that into the B2B world, and transitioned into small business sales where I was calling on small plumbing and electric companies, and then moved up into mid-sized accounts, and then eventually national and multinational accounts. So I did the full gamut in the business B2B world, and I did it for about 13 or 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you must have liked that more than the consumer sales.
Yeah, that was definitely the direction I wanted to go in, was B2B, and that's the where I am presently. My company is focused on B2B as opposed to B2C.
Yeah.
So. And
when did you found your current company?
I founded Social Marketing Solutions in 2014, and I was very unhappy in the corporate world. By that time, I kind of peaked, and then was on the downside. I had some managers that kind of drained my spirit. Didn't break me, but they tried to, and just would. Sunday night would come around, and the thought of going into work would just bring on anxiety and stress and that pit in your stomach feeling. So I realized that I needed to do something to break out of that mold, and it wasn't happening on its, by doing what I had been doing to that point. So I enrolled in an MBA program at Regis University in Denver, and focus was in marketing. And so I founded my company on paper in that program. And it was a requirement that you had to start a business and have a business idea with a business plan and have it ready to open the door, basically, once you finished the program. And it was up to you whether you wanted to open it or not, but you could open a business once you completed the program. Well,
sounds like a useful program.
It was. People ask,
and you still have the business, so
right. And so the way that came about is I ended up getting laid off from my corporate job, and it was about 6 months prior to finishing my MBA. And I faced a crossroad like this. I had that business ready to open by that point. It was done, and or I could have gone back and gone and just got another corporate job, doing what I had been doing in B2B sales in the telecommunications world, and probably been still unhappy. And then 6 months after I got my MBA, I'd be looking around again. Well, what do I do now? Kind of thing.
Right.
And it was a big risk because we had small children at the time, and I was used to that cushy B2B base salary, full benefits, 401k. Car allowance, monthly bonus structure, 2 weeks paid vacation, and all those corporate bennies, right?
Yeah.
And
which is the dream. People see that as the dream for the most part. But you also kind of sacrifice your freedom a little bit, right? In some cases,
yes. And so it was a tough decision, because when you're the family guy and you're married and you got a mortgage and you got kids and everything, taking that type of risk at that point in your life is, not always advisable. And so it was a pretty big risk. I decided to take it. I am lucky that my wife has a great job. She floated the family while I started my business, and wouldn't have been able to do it without her and her career. She has a great, like I said, a great career, and so I was very fortunate to have her, step up to the plate. She it didn't give me a very long leash. She gave me 6 months to turn a startup company.
Your wife?
Yes. She said, I'll float the family for 6 months, and you have to replace your corporate income.
Yeah. Wow.
Within
she really lit the fire under your ass.
And and so it's like once you finish your MBA, it'll be about 6 months from now, and we'll I don't know that like she couldn't do it forever. Like we used to be a dual income family, and so she gave me that 6 month leash, and gained clients slowly, and literally in month 6 I had a windfall month, and I gained like 5 or 6 clients all in 1 month, and boom, I went from here to here, and replaced my corporate income, and told her, I said, hey, look, here's these clients, they're going to be paying me X amount a month, let's do this. And so she's like, all right. She gave me the green light, and never looked back since.
That's awesome. How has your business evolved from the startup phase in the school, in the program you're doing, to like where it is now?
Yeah, so
this was in 2014 still?
Yes, 2014.
Okay.
Yeah. So it started out as just a small social media. I mean, we're still pretty small, but we're a social media and content marketing shop, and we mostly work with mid-sized tech companies, small and mid-sized tech companies, help them develop their online presence, turn their C-level people into thought leaders, and help them with the personal branding side of things.
Yeah.
And develop content. So we take over their blog, help them ghostwrite and create materials, marketing materials. And so most recently, the biggest pivot has been transitioning into PR as well. So we've kind of evolved from a content marketing and social media marketing company, and now being able to offer PR services. And so helping our thought leaders and companies get mentioned in major publications, and podcasting, definitely. Love to have some my clients on the show, so we'll have to chat about that.
Yeah.
So I think I have some good ones for you.
That'd be awesome.
And so it's evolved into PR, and the way that happened was I started writing for Inc. magazine. Actually, in June will be 2 years since I've started writing for Inc. And got into that world, in the publishing world, and also published on Huffington Post, and I've a lot of other blogs where I've been syndicated, and so my clients really started asking for those services, and I was always kind of dishing them out to other people, and I realized that I could really start doing this for myself, not finding writers and podcasters that write in their niche or have a podcast in their niche,
mm-hmm.
and getting them featured on those shows. And most recently, I took a mastermind PR course.
Like part of a mastermind?
Yeah, it's part of a mastermind group.
Oh, okay.
And it was done by a 22-year-old Gen Z PR guru, Ulysses Osuna.
Is he here?
No, he's out in Cali. So I don't know if you know Ulysses or not, but 22 years old and just crushing it in the PR world. He offered me a seat in his group. I was able to get in there, and it just kind of accelerated my knowledge, and it was amazing course. It was an 8-week course, and now I have a new revenue arm to my business, and that's where I'm able to service my clients better. I'm able to bring on new clients that need these services, need PR services, mm-hmm. that need content marketing services.
Well, what's interesting about the agency world is most agency owners or provide, like, they're not practitioners in their space, so like they don't actually practice what they preach. What I like about you is like you're actually out there creating as an influencer, and now that's really where you help your clients too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I started at square one. I mean, I literally had zero personal brand.
Yeah.
When I started.
And I'm surprised you and my dad haven't crossed paths before too.
Well, let's make it happen.
Yeah,
you know?
no, we really
should.
Happy
hour, you know. Let's do
yeah.
it.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Go to a brewery or something up here.
I know, we should have just done the podcast at a brewery or something like that.
Out on the patio at Odell's or something.
Yeah.
It's a nice enough day for it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm a celiac, so I can't freaking drink beer in the state where we have more beer than anywhere, but I'll have a vodka soda or something like that.
Oh, we can go to the Rio, too. I don't know if you drink tequila. But
tequila is my favorite. I love tequila. Like, you got to respect tequila, and tequila will respect you back. Like good tequila. Matter of fact, there's a local one. We'll share this after the podcast. But there's a local one. If you like tequila, you may have had it before, but I'll have to share it with you sometime.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's awesome.
I'd love to meet your dad. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, you guys would totally hit it off. I'm surprised. Like this office has been here for over 18 years or so now. Or no. I'm sorry. This office has been here for 10 years. I don't know. Anyway, it's been here a while, but he's been here locally for a while. Pretty similar content. I'm sure there's different things that we both do, but anyway. So
maybe there's some synergies.
Oh, I think there really is.
Yeah.
So with your how did you start recognizing the value of building your own personal brand as an extension of your company?
Yeah. So it really happened kind of. It started with my MBA and the knowledge that I gained from doing that program. And the program made us do a ton of writing. We were banging out several blog posts a week, commenting on other people's blog posts from the class, and as well as writing white papers. And it was just a ton of writing, so I started producing all of this content. And you would maybe get some feedback from a few peers in class, and then the professor would grade it, and then you'd get the content back, and then it just lived on your laptop. It's like there has to be something else. I worked so hard on this, and now it's just gonna die on my laptop.
Yeah.
And so about that same time, LinkedIn opened up their blogging platform, and I started reading posts from other people, the LinkedIn influencers at the time, and they opened it up to other writers too at that time. And I said, I don't think my writing is that much worse than than these people, and maybe I could just repurpose some content I'm writing, because I was creating very relevant content about business and marketing at the time, and then I reached out to some of my mentors at the time, and I was like, I think I'm going to start blogging. And they were like, "You're going to do what?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think I'm an okay writer. I'm going to try this out. I like it." And believe it or not, I'm enjoying my MBA program in a weird, geeky way. And I want to do something with this content. And literally every one of my mentors at the time were like, no, why would you want to put yourself out there to the public? You're not some influencer. You don't have a journalism degree. What makes you think that anyone's going to read what you want to write? And then what happens when you put it out there and someone tears you apart and you get trashed publicly? And I listened to all of that advice, and I decided to do it anyway. I started putting content out, and about 5 or 6 articles in, I had one that did really well, a few thousand views. I actually wrote about OtterBox here locally, and the CEO of the time, Kurt Richardson, liked my post, shared it internally. A buddy that worked there sent me an email the next morning and was like, "You are the talk of the company right now at OtterBox." And that's kind of how it started. And then a few posts later, I ended up going mega viral on LinkedIn. and several 100,000 views within like 12 hours.
Wow! With this post?
No, this was several posts after that. So the OtterBox posted about 5,000 views, which was
on LinkedIn.
which was amazing at the time, like better than I could have ever thought.
And what did you write about?
I wrote about just some of their the way they market their products, and they use social media to develop their brand. And then it was about 3 or 4 posts after the OtterBox post that things just took off. And I had one that did several 100,000 views. And the next day I got an offer to write professionally.
Wow.
And so I was already blogging, getting paid to blog. And
this was for HuffPo?
This was for Dice.com.
Oh, okay.
Which is a tech recruiting site. And they contacted me. I had a call with them the next day. They wanted to know what my rate was for blogging. And I literally didn't have one. And I was like, well, let me put a custom proposal together for you. I was like totally like back spinning because I didn't even know what to quote them, you know? And
when was this? Was this
in 2014? Yeah.
So this was also right as you started your business.
Yeah, transitioning from the MBA to starting my business. I got laid off from the corporate world a few weeks later.
Wonder if there was a direct correlation between getting your clients in 6 months and this activity. Who knows? I'm just throwing that out there. But
right.
anyways.
Yeah, and that really has been the way I have gotten,
But social media is a fad, right?
Right.
Personal branding's a fad, right?
Yeah. It's just a just a trendy thing.
Yeah.
It'll be something different. So that's where it kind of started was at the LinkedIn blog, and it was all around 2014, repurposing that content for my MBA. Got a professional writing gig. Got laid off from my corporate job a few weeks later. And then decided to open that business. And, blogging has continued. I blog every week, new content still. It's been something I've done consistently for the last 4+ years. And literally 90% of my leads come from my blogs. That's how it started for me. It was, I get emails, hey, John, I read your blog about, lead gen on LinkedIn. This is something I think that my company needs to start doing. Can you get on a call with us? And that's, I've done very little paid advertising with my business. Very little. It's all been organic, word of mouth. And that's really what I specialize in, is that in word of mouth, organic lead gen, content, viral content. That's kind of where I've specialized, and that's kind of, like you said, the practice what you preach, and that's now what I sell to my clients.
What's the biggest misconception between going from ground zero where you were in 2014 to now you have acquired, you have like 50K followers on LinkedIn almost, and Instagram? Where else are you have your presence?
Twitter
Facebook?
Twitter is a big one.
Twitter
Twitter's my biggest, 155,000 or so followers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've never I haven't adopted Twitter for some reason. I started so late into the social media game. I'm a younger millennial dude. I just went straight to LinkedIn, Facebook. But I'm starting to wonder now, should I start building my brand on Twitter too?
It's been huge for me. Twitter drives more traffic than any of my
to your blog posts and everything.
Posts, my clients' posts too.
So HuffPo, Inc., they probably love you because every time you're putting their content out, it's reciprocating, traffic and everything.
Yeah, via Twitter and LinkedIn following, especially.
But anyway, so what's the biggest misconception about going from that to 100,000 followers?
I think that some people think that it's going to be easy, too easy. Yeah, that they can just, that they want to go from zero to hero, almost instantly, like instant gratification. They want that secret sauce, and then they realize that it's hard work, and you have to be consistent with it over time. And it doesn't just, you have big wins along the way that kind of give you the spike, and then you have to you have to capitalize on those moments, otherwise they become 15 minutes of fame, right?
Right.
And I think people don't realize how much work goes into developing a business and a personal brand. How many hours of hard work goes into developing that, and they want that one secret sauce or that one tip that's going to get them there, where really it's doing thousands. It
is actually hard. There's no hack or there's little things here and there, but to actually get an engaged, valuable followership like what you have,
there's totally thousands of hacks, and you have to do them. There's the little things that go behind building a big brand, and there's no shortcut to go from 0 to 100. You still have to go. It has to be daily, has to be consistent work, and it has to be ongoing. It's not something you can do for 6 months and be done with it.
Because it is a snowball effect, right? And I'm now starting to grasp that myself. So hearing you say it is really interesting, because I've noticed that too. Like, I went an entire year producing content, putting content out, vlogging, writing, everything. When I started trying to build my brand on LinkedIn and other platforms and everything, and it's like, it can get deterring in the beginning. People don't engage. They don't like your stuff. They may be looking at it, but you don't always pick up on that. And so I love that you just mentioned the consistency is so important, and to not get detoured in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah. And I see so many people that approach me and they're really gung-ho about personal branding, and they're, I want to start doing videos and blogging, and I want to ramp up my presence, and they do it for like 3 months, and when it doesn't just happen overnight, they quit. They just give up.
Yeah. I feel like most people have to go into it for 24 months and expect nothing out of it, right? That's what I would probably tell somebody, because that's realistic. I mean, there's so much noise out there. You have to be consistent to break through anything.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully in those 24 months they have some gains.
Yeah. But it's much better going into those 24 months expecting nothing in return.
Right, and being realistic with the process, and not expecting to go from zero personal brand to being featured on Forbes in 30 days.
Yeah, if you're doing it yourself. I mean, if you're able to hire and put funds into it, but most people just start on their own with their own internal resources, right?
Right, but even putting funds behind it, it has to stay consistent, and the individual has to take some ownership behind the process, because if they don't put any of the work into it themselves, if they want agency to do it all for them, it eventually it doesn't scale as fast. It's not as authentic. So that the person really has to be invested in their own brand for it to be truly effective, in my opinion. Has
to be genuine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've read your content. Like, your stuff is genuine, and you talk about a wide array of topics. I guess it depends on what publication, but I read your one on anxiety, which I think that's really important. And I have an interesting story about that, all the way to social media influencing and social media marketing. I'm sure people that are probably listening to this are halfway curious. How did you in the beginning get connected up with these really large publications? Did they approach you, say, hey, we want you to contribute? Or were you giving them, how does that work? How does that relationship work?
Yeah, so great question. So the first one came as a result of my blogging efforts on LinkedIn. I had the post that it did 500,000 views in the first 24 hours, and hundreds of comments and hundreds of likes, and if not thousands of likes. My inbox is filled up. People were texting me, hey, I was at work and I saw your blog post. I was like, wait, I know that guy. And so Dice.com approached me then literally the next day, and I had that meeting. And I landed a staff blogger position with them, and it was my first paid writing gig. So from there, I kept being consistent with writing on Dice.
It was mostly LinkedIn, like LinkedIn,
blogging,
and Twitter was where you're distributing your LinkedIn posts.
Via Twitter, yeah. Twitter is a great way to distribute content, and so I started doing that, and from there I started getting other offers to write. I was some of that was proactive with me reaching out, some of it was getting offers. And really just focusing on building an authentic audience and networking with other writers. And I think that's a key step because, writers are also business people and they do business. But if they have a passion for writing and you have that same passion, you're going to connect. And writers, most of the ones that I know, they want to help each other out, right? They want to say, hey, well, give me a like and a comment on this one, and I'll do that for you, and so that amplifies your content out there because they often have a large audience as well, and so when they other writers like and comment, and that helps your stuff gain visibility, and then it helps you on the networking side, not only with your business because, like I said, writers are also business people.
It's amazing how that works, right? People underestimate I call it like the exponentiality of platform like LinkedIn. Like you'll go like something I post, like a video or something, all of a sudden I'll spike up an extra 1,000 views because of that. It just takes that one person to get engaging, and asking them to do it too is an interesting approach. Yeah,
and so building that network of support and with other writers is a key step to getting on platforms and getting your personal brand out there on major platforms. And so then when I applied at Inc., I had 3 other writers recommend me. They were already there on Inc., and I had been networking with these writers for about a year before I ever applied at Inc., sharing their stuff, liking their stuff, adding value to them, and getting to know them on a personal level. And we were networking and collaborating. And then when I got to the point with my writing where I wanted to apply for Inc., I reached out to them and said, hey, I'm ready to do this. Can you guys help me out? And it wasn't a cold pitch at that point. And we like I said, I networked with them for about a year prior to going for the ask. So I gained their trust. They knew that my writing was solid. They knew that I would, have be the type of writer that Inc. was looking for. So I had 3 recommendations from people that were already in that door that, recommended me in my application when I submitted it. So I have to believe that was a huge, it contributed hugely to me getting in the door at Inc. was having those recommendations. And
so for one like Inc., you would submit yourself or apply to be a contributor, but the decision makers there, you've been adding value to them, which obviously I agree with you, probably had some influence on getting that position, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think having that advocacy from 3 people that were already there and writing, and that were successful writers, really helped my chances a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think and one thing I tell people when they ask me this question is, it's the same as sales. Anytime you make a cold pitch on something, your likelihood of closing that deal is much lower than when you have a warm pitch. And if you can have a warm pitch to an editor to get your foot in that door, it's just the likelihood of you getting accepted is exponentially higher. And I've seen it not only with myself, but I've seen this process, other people, following the same process, and it has worked for other people. And so if you can get that foot in the door, you're just exponentially more likely of getting accepted.
Yeah. When you have a relationship like the one you do with Inc., does that limit, like, is there I guess, regulate or whatever rules on you going to other publications and providing them with the same content or similar type content?
Yeah, so each publication you write for is a little bit different in how they let you syndicate stuff.
Yeah.
So with Inc., they own the content for a period of time, and then they release it back to the writers, and then you can syndicate wherever you'd like, but you have to attribute, the original article back to your column on Inc. with a link. And so so that's been great because I have like 145 or so articles I've written now on Inc. And so I have, all this content, and people ask me, well, are you ever going to write a book? And
I was going to ask you that too. It's probably the go-to question, right?
So I think, having all these blog posts.
Well, how do you come up with all these different topics? Like, what is it? Just whatever you're kind of interested in at the time, and you'll get some, like, how does that creative process work for you?
Yeah.
Writing's hard, man. I don't think a lot of people in my generation do as much content, actual writing. Would you agree with that?
I've seen some that they definitely do. I think video is kind of stronger with some of the younger generations, vlogging and whatnot. But yeah, so putting out all those posts, it definitely would make the process of writing a book easier. So, but as far as how my creative process and how I go about finding content to write about or content ideas, I think some of it's just from the news, what's trending, out there. If I can offer a spin on something that's already trending, have an original take on that, spin that into a blog post, or sometimes it'll be just something that'll like happen like spontaneously, and then they'll trigger an idea for a piece of content. And I do deviate a lot from my bread and butter is marketing and sales content and social media content, but I deviate a lot from that. And it's sometimes it's just something that happens and something that I feel passionate about, and I'll just sit down and write the post and put it out there and see what happens. Goes. But a lot of my strongest posts have had nothing to do with marketing.
Yeah. Well, your anxiety post was very interesting, and I think that's a really important topic that you covered there, because a lot of people are struggling. When I went through a period of my life where I had so much, like I could not, it was crippling, depressed all the time. Like literally you mentioned in the post, like feel like you're going crazy, right?
Yeah.
And your ego kind of prevents you from talking about that.
Right.
And so having someone with as big of a following as you sharing that, especially I like the part about, your ego can get in the way of getting help with that stuff, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, so there was a couple reasons that post did well. Number one is, people, when you're writing posts, once you gain a little bit of influence, and you get an audience, if you admit to having flaws, people really relate well to that. And no one wants to read a negative Nancy blog post, so you have to tie it into a positive outcome some way. But if you admit to having flaws, because we're all flawed, and oftentimes we put people up on these pedestals, and I think social media really perpetuates that, because people typically they only share their highlight reel, right? And you see when they get a new car, you see when their kids make the honor roll, you see when they take that vacation. And so you kind of like, if that's your perception of people's lives, it can really make yours seem not so glamorous, and what you don't realize is they didn't post the day they got fired from their job. They didn't post about the account that fired them and called them an idiot and, would never do business with them. They only posted the time that they closed the, $50K a month client, so there's perception out there that, people have these great lives, and you can really get caught up with that with social media because it is just a highlight reel. So when you come with a piece of real content and you talk about something you've struggled with and it's relatable, people are really, they connect with it on an emotional level, and that's that's what you want content to do, is you want it to grab people. And so I've found that sometimes the more I admit to the greater response. And another post I did was about my humble beginnings to my sales career that I touched on earlier in our conversation about going door to door, selling Dish Network and DirecTV, and I was selling to a Hispanic community and bilingual community. That's what they hired me to do. And sometimes those people were just starting out in their life in the U.S. So they lived in trailer parks and they lived in areas of town that weren't like super nice. And that was the start to my career, my sales career. And, to talk about how that really shaped my future, that was another post that people really related to. They're like, wow, here's a guy that's on ink, and has a big presence on social media. But his first sales job was going door to door in trailer parks. Like, wow, that's relatable to my humble beginnings. And so I think, anytime you can tell those stories, and again, you have to tie it to a positive outcome. Like, no one wants to hear, how your life was ruined and, you never bounce back from that. They want to hear, how you suffered from anxiety and, that you struggled with it, and here's, some of the steps you've taken to improve that situation. So those types of posts do really well. Authenticity
is going to win in the end. That's the beauty of social media too, is it will eventually expose those who only paint the fake picture of their lives, right? Because we're always we're always being watched and monitored and recorded, and eventually even our own thoughts are going to be totally exposed, which is interesting. Yeah,
the people that drive to the airport and rent a private plane so they can get their picture taken off of it.
Right.
Your hour's up, man. Get out.
Right, yeah.
Get that on my Instagram.
Yeah. No, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. So I think that's a great message, man. I mean, a lot of, and surprisingly enough, we have a lot of pretty young people that listen to this podcast. I just heard the other day, one of my sister's friends, 16 years old, listens to our podcast, which is amazing. And my little sister, who's 10, like her, they have access to this stuff. And I think it's important to see that what you see on social media is not necessarily reality, and focus in on the positive of what you're doing and just be authentic about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you still struggle with anxiety at times? Is that still like a challenge for you?
Yeah, it's an ongoing issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's controlled now. But it still rears its ugly head if I don't, stay mindful in what I'm doing, and if I get overloaded with stress, or if I don't get sleep, it can snowball. So it's something that I deal with ongoing. I have a system in place to manage it now, whereas when I first started having it, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, you don't know what's happening.
Yeah,
right?
It was
just think you're going crazy.
Yeah.
Like the schizophrenia is kicking in. I guess I'm one of them.
Yeah, I'm going to be committed or something, and so
you
don't realize it. A lot of people are going through it too, and it's a very normal thing. And so I think writing about it definitely helps other people realize that, hey, I'm not the only one that is dealing with this, and so they appreciate that. Yeah.
What's me personally, my personal journey, I've been grateful enough that my family is not on the they don't do the traditional medicine side. My mom's side, yes. My dad's side more is like natural healing. And so when I started having those really big challenges, I went to a place here in Fort Collins called Natural Health Center of the Rockies, which shout out to Bill and Tammy Jenkins, awesome people. And they do nutritional response testing. What we're starting to find today is what's really interesting is how much of your psyche and your anxiety is really stemmed from your gut, like really, really massively in your gut. Most of your intuition, you know, the feeling like when you get butterflies, or like you intuitively, they say go with your gut.
Yeah.
They're finding more through research that is a reality. So I found out by doing that I'm actually extremely allergic to gluten and soy and other kind of grains and dairy. And so I starting with my gut. I eliminated that stuff. I started doing more natural supplementation, getting more nutrients in, and my anxiety 180 shifted. Where there's days where I couldn't get out of bed and I couldn't face people and I felt like garbage, even though I appeared as this really outgoing person. Mm-hmm. It's not what was going on internally.
Right.
So that might be something to check out, man. I mean, it's made a huge impact, the natural healing stuff, and I continue on with that now.
Yeah.
Eliminating stuff that you wouldn't even think affects your mood, but really, it really does.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to attack anxiety, but the most important thing I think is to get a plan in place. Because if you go without any sort of plan, that's when it's really
gets bad.
Yeah, and so
it becomes a challenge.
Seek out help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get, especially in the world we live in. There's so much activity happening. We're constantly being bombarded on social. We're seeing other people that are doing better than us or perceived. We go back to what we were just talking about. We perceive them. That gives us
reel.
Yeah, their highlight reel. That makes us feel even worse about ourselves. So yeah, it's awesome. This is why I love conversations like this. Is not a lot of people get to actually go and pick that stuff apart.
Yeah, it's been great, man.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. So, what are some last minute? What would you like to share with the audience as we're kind of winding down here? And any last minute tips or insights you'd like to share with people?
As far as developing a personal brand and
anything.
I think people always ask me what is the key to career success and personal branding. And one of the things I always tell them is you have to have a thirst for knowledge. And I think that is, being a lifetime learner is important. And if you want to grow, you have to always be looking to gain knowledge every day. And, whether that's reading blog posts or watching YouTube videos or signing up for online courses or going back to school, whether it's
podcasts.
Listening to podcasts.
I just had to plug. Right? I just had to plug that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different ways you can gain knowledge.
So building a hunger for knowledge.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think back to my corporate days when I started to regress, and it's I would get off work at 5 o'clock or whatever, and I'd feel spent, and I felt like I had, I'd put in a full day, and I was done, and I just went home, and I, would just waste away in front of the TV until I was ready to go to bed, and I'd get up and do it again, and I stopped really gaining knowledge and stopped focusing on myself. I was focused on meeting the expectations of my position, and that really consumed me, but it limited my growth potential. So, the thing that, for me that changed it was going back to school and getting an MBA, and it forced me to get out of my comfort zone. And I realized the value of becoming a lifetime learner in that process. So but you don't have to get an MBA. You don't have to go back and finish that 4-year degree. There's vocational schools. There's so many different ways you can be a learner, and you can use Google just to search information out there. So you don't have to drop thousands of dollars and go into debt to gain knowledge, but you have to have some sort of plan for growth, and that goes back to being a learner and learning new information that you can eventually tie towards revenue streams.
I like that. Growing knowledge. How does someone transition to building that hunger for knowledge if they're in the former state that you had mentioned you found yourself in?
I think they have to get to the point where they're tired of where they're at with their life, and that's where really it reached for me. I was like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of feeling stressed out. I'm tired of hating my job. I'm tired of not having growth. So they think they have to, reach that point within themselves that they become internally motivated. Mm-hmm. And once either they realize that or they have that motivation, then they can go out and attack it in a way that's productive for them, for their career and for their life.
John is awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming down. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's great.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I'm excited to share this with everybody. How can people get into contact with you? What's the best way to find you?
Okay, so they can find my column on Inc. If you just Google John White in Inc., I will come right up. They can follow me on Twitter at Juan Blanco 76. So,
Juan Blanco?
Yeah. So that guy comes from Spain. Where do you think that name comes from? So,
nice.
There's a side story there. So
Wait, Juan like Juan?
Blanco 76. So John White is Juan Blanco in Spanish.
Okay.
So I tried to sign up for Twitter under John White, and all the handles were taken. And then Juan Blanco kind of it was my nickname when I was in Spain, going back to our earlier conversation.
That's hilarious.
So that's how that Twitter handle came out.
Yeah.
And then on LinkedIn, I'm John White MBA. You'll find me right away. And then you can find information about my company at socialmarketingsolutions.com.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. We'll have to do this again. I'm sure we could probably have like a 4-hour conversation. But I got to get to my sister's...
Over tequila.
Over tequila next time. That might be even more behind-the-scenes fun podcast. I got to go get to my sister's graduation. But guys, go check out John's stuff. Hope that was really helpful. Hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and look forward to chatting with you guys next time. And cut.